If you've been dealing with plantar fasciitis, you've probably been told to roll out the bottom of your foot with a ball or a water bottle. Yeah, it feels good, and yeah, it helps with temporary pain relief, but we're here to tell you it's time to break up with that frozen water bottle for good. Prehab, welcome back to the channel. Dr. Adelle here, and today let's talk about all things plantar fasciitis. Maybe you've seen our first video on plantar fasciitis with this handsome guy right here. Well, today we are going to continue along that road to recovery together. Our last video went over some great techniques for instant relief, as well as a couple techniques for long-term management. Now, if you found that video helpful and are itching, or should we say burning, for more on how to manage your plantar fasciitis for the long haul, this video is for you. Today's video is geared towards the necessary steps you need to take to truly tackle that plantar fasciitis. Yes, the mobility feels good and plays a big role, but what many people don't realize is that in order to manage your plantar pain, you need to strengthen the muscles around it. But before we dive in, let's quickly review what plantar fasciitis is. Plantar fascia is just that, fascia. Similar to the fascia that makes up your IT band, this type of tissue is a non-contractile tissue that is found on the bottom or plantar surface of your foot. This thick fibrous structure originates from the medial calcaneal tubercle of your heel bone and runs towards the metatarsal heads, aka your toes. Its main role is to help support your medial longitudinal arch of your foot with everyday activities such as walking, standing, running, jumping, you name it, and that plantar fascia plays a very big role. Now, remember, fascia is non-contractile, which means it cannot really be strengthened or stretched like a muscle, but it is still responsible for helping to support our feet. With all that being said, we get pain in our plantar fascia because this particular tissue is not able to withstand the load we are placing it under, which makes a lot more sense for those of you who maybe have been battling this on and off for years. The pain calms down, it feels pretty good, then you end up doing a lot more in your feet one day and you're back to where you started, which is super frustrating. So yes, the stretches feel good and rolling out that frozen water bottle can help to address the pain in the acute phase, but how do we take care of that plantar fasciitis for good? Well, if this tissue has had a hard time accepting load, then we need to progressively load it and strengthen the muscles around it to better tolerate the load that we're doing day to day. It's quite simple, really. We call it progressive overload. So how do we do that? Well, let me show you. Now, before we get into strength, we mentioned the importance of mobility, right? Making sure you have enough mobility to adequately distribute the load and forces evenly between different structures in your foot and ankle is super important. Our first video on plantar fasciitis dives into several stretches to help with your foot mobility. But it's not just the mobility of our feet that we need to be mindful of, but our ankles too. Remember, our plantar fascia does have some fascial attachments to the calf musculature and Achilles tendon. So definitely throw in a good gastroc and soleus stretch at the wall to help address any tightness to the back of that lower leg. And of course, last but not least, you can't forget about the ankle dorsiflexion mobility. If you don't have enough dorsiflexion, we automatically increase the strain on the plantar fascia with every step or jump that we take. There are so many different ways to improve your dorsiflexion. This exercise is just one of my many favorites from our ankle dorsiflexion mobility program. Okay, so I know I said we'd get into the strengthening, but I couldn't skip this integral step. Now that you know the importance of mobility of not just your foot, but your ankle, we're ready to load it up. As I mentioned before, the plantar fascia helps to support the medial longitudinal arch of our foot as it navigates through supination and pronation, and then supination again as we walk, squat, jump, and run, you name it. This alternating pattern between supination and pronation is normal and an important part of facilitating healthy movement and control at not just our foot, but your ankle, your knee, and your hip as well. If our plantar fascia is inadequate in controlling pronation, we need to look at the muscles that also help to control pronation as well. One of those being the tibialis posterior. One of the biggest roles of the tibialis posterior is to eccentrically control pronation as we walk. So to really master that alternating pattern between pronation and supination of that foot, we need to strengthen it. But as you know, most of us don't get that plantar fascia pain when we're non-weight bearing. We get it when we're standing. So progressing to weight bearing or standing exercises that target this muscle will be the next step. This balance exercise is a more advanced and functional exercise to target that tibialis posterior to better resemble the load we put through that arch with day-to-day activities. The other major muscle group we want to work on strengthening is our calves. To really load the plantar fascia while strengthening the calves, we want to put it on a little bit of a lengthened position by sliding a towel underneath our toes. From here, we can perform a calf raise while specifically targeting our arch and plantar fascia a bit more. Remember that a calf raise is done well when we move our body up and down, not forward and back. So keep this in mind when doing the exercise, as we want to be sure we are doing it correctly. Now, those bigger muscles play a big role, duh, but let's not forget about those smaller intrinsic muscles. Even though they are quite small, they play a large role in how our foot functions, but they often go without being intentionally strengthened. Now, this exercise may look simple and silly, but trying an exercise such as a seated short foot and then progressing it into standing may just be what those little muscles need to learn how to control and support that arch of yours. Remember to be kind to yourself and patient with this one. These are small muscles and these exercises will feel really hard at first. And not like, oh wow, my muscles are burning hard, but mentally challenging and fatiguing, as sending those neural signals from your brain down to those smaller muscles in your feet is no small feat. Stay consistent with these, practice will help. And once you master that, you can focus on performing more dynamic movements such as a single leg RDL while focusing on the appropriate short foot position. Now let's put it all together with more complex movements and under load. Take a lateral lunge, a step up, a step down, or a goblet squat. All of these movements force our foot into dorsiflexion and pronation as we lower and supination as we come up, challenging our plantar fascia throughout. The key to get the most out of these is intent. Not only are we working on our foot and ankle, but our knee, our hip, our core too. All of which certainly play a role in recovery from plantar fasciitis, believe it or not. Okay, Prehab fam, so I know that was a lot, so let's do a quick recap of everything. Yes, stretching is important early on, but strength and loading is where the gains are made. Focusing on strengthening of the calf muscles and small itty-bitty foot muscles plays an initial role in getting that tissue ready. Add it all together with progressive strengthening in different planes of motion for the ultimate gains. We know plantar fasciitis can be frustrating, but as mentioned before, 90% of individuals will improve with conservative treatment within 6 to 12 months. If you are wanting to take the guesswork out and want to take your plantar fascia rehab to the next level, make sure to check out our foot and ankle prehab program on the Prehab app. Until next time, Prehabbers. Hey Prehabbers, if you enjoyed our content, go ahead, like and subscribe.
Or better yet, head over to our website in the description below and check out the dozens of programs that we've created to help you take control of your health today.